This will be the final video for chapter 24. We left off with our previous video looking at hybrid zones and how those form, and it starts with a barrier to gene flow that gets reestablished on the line. Today we're going to be looking at reinforcement and fusion to start off with, which would be strengthening or weakening of reproductive barriers. In our example, we're looking at two bird species. One are pied flycatchers, which can have variation in color, and collared flycatchers, which, well, they kind of look the same. The left half of our image here shows us males in a sympatric population, and the image off to the right shows us males in an allopatric population. Notice that the male pied and collared flycatchers in the allopatric populations, they look very similar, but in the sympatric populations, very different. Barriers to reproduction seem to be stronger in the sympatric populations. Since this is reinforcing a reproductive barrier, this process we see in the example is called reinforcement. We can see right here that females, when allowed to select a mate of their choice, always chose 100% of the time their own species. So the female collared flycatchers would always mate with this guy, and the female pied flycatchers would always mate with this guy. That was in the sympatric population. However, in an allopatric population, the females would select either male, either the pied or collared, because they look quite similar. In other words, the females in the allopatric population had difficulty differentiating between their own species and the other species. Why? Well, they looked quite similar. Fusion is where barriers are weakened, and that would be when barriers to the reproduction in general are not strong. This is an example that has been going on in Lake Victoria with some of their fish. There was two different species, and as a result of these two species consistently breeding together to create hybrids, these guys and these guys both essentially disappeared, and now this is the common species that's seen in those lakes. This is a result of excessive gene flow between these two species and the formation of the hybrid species. So this is almost a reversal of speciation, in that we're not diverging into more and more species, but we're converging into the same species. Now when I say converging, don't get that confused with convergent evolution. And the last concept in chapter 24 is with speed and rate of speciation, which can be tracked by measuring how long it takes for a species to form from the fossil record, and also morphological information as well as molecular data. Recall when we say morphological, we're referring to physical features. So the fossil record shows us what we've been talking about previously. Fossils are found in layers of strata, layers of rock that change and show us how the planet has changed over the course of time. And very often we'll see one organism present in a deep layer of strata, and then it's there for several layers of rock on top of it, indicating that that organism had been around for quite some time. And then just like that, the organism is completely gone in one layer of strata and never seen from again. What happened? Well, Eldridge and Gould came up with the idea of punctuated equilibrium, which is where there's sudden change as a result of something that's occurring in the environment rather rapidly. So there's some sudden change in the environment causing life to change quite drastically. That could be extinction events or other things, but for whatever the case, the organism was there, it was unchanged for a long, long time, and then boom, gone. So let's compare the punctuated equilibrium model proposed by Eldredge and Gould, which we see off here on the right here. We'll have one species that's around for a period of time, and then boom, gone. According to their model, what would happen is this species would become pretty quickly two different species, and then those species would ride out life unchanged for a very, very long time. Sometimes this species could diverge into two species, but once again, it's around for a long time. And the length of these lines indicates that the organism was unchanged for a good period of time. So the longer these lines on these trees tend to be, that does indicate that no change has occurred. Well, according to the gradualism model, a species diverges and then slowly over the course of time changes a little bit, and then changes a little bit more, then changes a little bit more to get to the end product that we see today. And same with this side here. So it's gradually changing slowly over the course of time. The punctuated equilibrium model, it does explain why we see great change in the strata, especially after detected catastrophic events and mass extinctions. That's typically when we would see the punctuated equilibrium of species. This concludes Chapter 24. We'll be moving into Chapter 25 shortly. Make sure you get your Chapter 24 reviews completed.